Imagine a world without schools, textbooks, or gadgets, and childhood ending at 13. What was a child's daily life like in an era when every step outside the camp could be their last? We're used to thinking of prehistoric people as struggling to survive, leaving their children to fend for themselves. But archaeological finds tell a different story. They had their own toys, their own lessons, and even their own rigorous exams. Their entire life was the perfect training ground, transforming a fragile child into a resilient hunter. And it all began with objects that today we would simply call entertainment, toy weapons. These items were meticulously crafted scale models of actual hunting gear, carved from durable wood, bone, or mammoth ivory by elders to perfectly fit a child's small hands. Discovered at various Paleolithic sites across Europe and Asia, these mini bows, arrows, and small stone axes served as essential educational tools rather than mere distractions. They allowed young boys to build muscle memory and perfect their hand-eye coordination by practicing on moving targets like rolling gourds or small forest rodents. This hands-on play was critical because a child's eventual mastery of these weapons would directly determine the tribe's food supply and survival decades later. Unlike modern toys designed for brief entertainment, these tools required hours of daily dedication, embedding the physics of trajectory and force into the child's developing mind. Clay figurines. These small, roughly sculpted animal and human shapes were molded from wet river mud and baked near the glowing ashes at the edges of the campfire until hardened. Fragmentary remains of these figures have been excavated from Ice Age hearths worldwide, representing the dangerous megafauna of the region, such as woolly mammoths, cave lions, bison, and wild horses. Children use them to act out complex hunting strategies, migratory movements, or domestic camp scenes, mimicking the behavior of the adults they observed every day. This form of symbolic play was highly sophisticated because it allowed children to mentally process the structure, hazards, and geography of a long-distance hunt, long before they were physically strong enough to participate in one. By moving these figures through miniature landscapes in the dirt, children developed spatial awareness and a deep cognitive understanding of animal behavior. Miniature digging sticks. These tools were weighted wooden shafts with fire-hardened points, modeled precisely after the primary harvesting equipment used by adult women. Young girls carried these smaller versions into the fields, practicing how to identify underground tubers, nutritious roots, and edible bulbs without destroying the delicate surrounding plants. This item was completely distinct from a passive toy because it allowed children to actually contribute real, measurable calories to the camp's daily supply, while learning the complex botanical landscape of their territory. Experiencing this physical labor early ensured that the vital knowledge of which plants were nutritious and which were deadly was passed down seamlessly through generations. It blurred the line between play and work, making productivity an organic, celebrated part of growing up rather than an imposed chore. Tracking games. This activity was a highly structured physical variation of hide and seek, played across miles of open wilderness, stretching far beyond the immediate safety of the camp. One group of children would head out into the heavy brush, intentionally leaving behind a subtle trail of broken twigs, overturned stones, scuffed dirt, and faint footprints, while a second group would attempt to locate them. This cooperative game naturally developed a child's peripheral vision, physical stamina, and ability to read the terrain under the safety of a peer group. It mattered immensely because learning to read nature's subtle, easily missed signs under pressure was the single most important skill required to navigate the ancient world without getting lost or ambushed by predators. It transformed the landscape from an intimidating wall of green into a highly detailed book that the children could read fluently. Campfire storytelling. This practice served as the formal curriculum of prehistoric childhood, taking place every single night once the safety of the perimeter fire was established and predators were kept at bay. Elders used performance, rhythm, vocal mimicry, and song to pass down oral histories, detailed survival maps, and the moral codes of the community to the listening youth. This stood as the only form of higher education available, embedding critical survival data, such as where to find hidden water holes during generational droughts, directly into the child's memory. It bound the youth to the history of their people and ensured the accumulated wisdom of thousands of ancestors did not vanish when the elders passed away. Through these shared narratives, children developed a shared identity and an understanding of their responsibilities to the group. Bodily modification rituals. These permanent physical alterations marked the official transition from childhood into adulthood, typically occurring around the onset of puberty between ages 12 and 15. Elders would use sharp obsidian flakes, flint blades, or bone needles to carve intricate geometric patterns into the chest, back, or face, rubbing sacred ash or charcoal directly into the open cuts to leave dark, raised scars. In other regions, an initiate's front tooth would be intentionally knocked out with a rock during a silent, solemn ceremony where crying out or showing fear was strictly forbidden. These marks served as an unforgeable, lifelong identifier, showing anyone from a neighboring tribe exactly who they were and what status they held. It mattered because it visually erased the child's dependent identity, replacing it with the heavy, unyielding expectations of a fully accountable adult member of the tribe. That's all for now. See you later. Bye-bye.